Good afternoon, everyone. I am Sunil Rajguru, editor of Dataquest and your host for today's live webinar. A warm welcome to you all and thank you for joining us for the calm after the storm. So let's get started immediately. Yeah. People like they talk of the future and they keep talking of changes that are coming, but I'd say like the future is already here. I remember way back in 2019, people used to talk, the cloud is inevitable, you'll all have to come to the cloud and all. But I think after 1.5 years in the pandemic, it's here. The paradigm has changed, the new normal or whatever you want to call it. So I'd say we are living in a cloud world and we have to adapt accordingly. Ashok, next slide, please. Yeah, so again, I'm repeating, I'm your host, Sunil Rajguru, DataQuest editor. I'm host for your webinar today. So next slide, please. Yeah, so it's very funny if you like go back to what 30, 40 years people talked. A lot of them were visionaries and whatever they said, turned out right. So like one of them was Steve Jobs. If you go back, from the 80s, whatever he has said has come out right. So, he used to say, I don't need a hard disk in my computer if I can get to the server faster. Carrying around these non-connected computers is Byzantine by comparison. So, he had called it Byzantine in those days itself. And I think, obviously, what he said at that time, not many people understood. But that era is here, and that Byzantine era is gone. We are already here in the cloud world. Next slide, please. So if you see again what has happened, if you look at the 2010s, everyone was aware what's going to happen, where we were heading. But what actually changed was the acceleration. So we had a technological acceleration, which has been rightly called tech acceleration. So where all did the tech acceleration take place? The first was in the collaboration era. So obviously, because people are sitting at home, people are not able to go to their offices, and people were stranded, maybe not even at home and office, in a hotel. So still work had to go on, everyone had to collaborate. So one was collaboration. And if you see, we were used to WFH, but even that term is going now. It is now WFA, work from anywhere. Because again, it's not that you're going to be at home all the time. You could be anywhere. You could be at home, in the office, you could be in a hotel, you could be stranded on the airport. So you have to work seamlessly. And another thing that saved us during the pandemic was e-commerce. Because again, if you're stuck at home, you have to get on with your life. So in India, like Swiggy, Zomato, and anything, Amazon Prime, you just name it. You could get everything sitting at home. E-commerce, like depending on which region you are in, doubled and tripled. Then another thing which mushroomed was OTT. So I think we are entering a new era of hybrid education, hybrid world where I think OTT will dominate. The same thing happens with online education, the mobile workforce. The mobile workforce is touching 2 billion. That means 2 billion people are using smartphone on what they can be called part of the mobile workforce. And of course, no touch technologies and health tech. But I think I don't have to tell you what was common between all of that. Next slide, please. So it's the cloud. It's like in the 80s, 90s, they used to say it's the economy. Now it's the cloud. So whatever changes took place, whatever I mentioned, there is just one common factor, that is the cloud. And just to tell you, if you look at the numbers, trillions of GBs of data is zigzagging furiously all across the world through billions of devices via millions of data centers each and every day. A lot of you sit there, you probably, if you think of the number of data centers, they are in the millions. That the same whole goes for devices. They are in the billions, and the GB, like you usually at home, you sit and, count in terms of GBs. And now we are using trillions of GBs a day. And this number is going to increase, like trillions of GBs a day will become trillions of GBs an hour. And who knows, trillions of GBs a minute one of these days. We cannot say. So that is the way we are heading. Next slide, please. So again, so in 2019, there was a question, should you go to the cloud? These are the benefits, those are the benefits, but no. Now it's not, the question is not, are you going to go to the cloud? The question is, when are you going to the cloud? It doesn't matter whether you're a small business, small organization, anything. It is when are you going to the cloud? There is no if. The if has been thrown out of the window. And I'd say that, every individual company, vertical industry, you need a cloud data center strategy. Now you'll say I have put an individual there also. That's because, again, you have to work on the cloud, whether it's your entertainment, whether you're ordering, you need a cloud strategy for your life. What work are you going to put on the cloud? And similarly, every industry, every, vertical needs a data center strategy. If you don't have you just can't go on the cloud. You need a strategy. Next slide, please. So now, so this I've given you like the what you call introduction, and its cloud is a very exciting topic. And to discuss these exciting change in times, today on the webinar we will have with us Anjani Kommisetti, Country Manager India and SAARC, Raritan and Servertech brands of Legrand. Welcome, Anjani.
Thank you, Sunil, for the introduction.
Yeah. And also we have with us Anil Chopra, Vice President of Cyber Media Research. Welcome, Anil.
Thanks, Anil. Pleasure to be here.
Yeah. So I think without wasting much time, I'll hand over the presentation to Anjani, and he can take you forward.
Yeah. Thanks, Sunil. Thank you, everyone, for taking your valuable time and attending the session today. Now I'll be presenting a small version of what we are offering at Legra. This is like a small commercial ad in between the exciting picture which you're about to visualize. So please bear with me. I'll try and make it as interesting as possible. So Legrand is a known brand in the industry for many electrical and data center components for decades. So in recent times, as the data center business is emerging, and there are many brands that Legra sponsors for the data center space of technology. What we have done is we have decided to build a separate vertical or a division which can focus and cater our data center customers with a focused approach. And we have also taken the advantage of bringing the global brands from various parts of the world, which are pretty well known and the masters or the leaders of the technology in that specific domains under one umbrella to offer the data center solutions. So Legrand brings various brands like Raritan and Server Technology in the space of intelligent PDUs, KVM or IPs, and the Minkels from the racks and containments, and Starline for the overhead bus bar technologies. And likewise, there are many advanced technologies in fiber solutions, etc., which we are bringing under one umbrella to offer towards the data center market. So in similar, what we are doing is while we are bringing different brands and different components from different parts of the world under one umbrella, we are making it an integrated and a power-packed portfolio with a focused approach to make sure there is no interoperability issues or any compatibility issues with the respective regions where we are going to position these products or use these solutions. So what is the advantage of an LDCS is mostly Legra itself is committed to be an innovative by developing various technologies. We've been the inventors or the first ones to introduce various technologies. If, for example, if you take the intelligent PDUs or the KVM or IP solutions in the industry, it's been known that we have set the pace for adopting these technologies. 10 years before when we introduced intelligent PDUs, that's been a concept. But today that is the key component in the part of the data center. That's where our commitment towards innovation goes. Similarly, we would be establishing or showcasing a transparent behavior, and we are committed to do that without over-committing or without making false commitments. We would be dealing very fairly with our partners and customers in the data center business. Of course, it's applicable for all the business, but this division is very much focused towards the data center, and that's our commitment. And all our technologies are customer focused, keeping the customer at the center to understand what is his challenging area or a painful area, and we are bringing the solutions towards that. And data center is corely focused on resource optimization. You take it in the form of power, cooling, people or the time, effort that goes in, everything has to be optimized. And that's where every product and technology that we're bringing in contribute towards in optimizing these specific resources. Having said that, when we have these commitments, we are focusing with these product lines to deliver an energy efficient solutions and to make it the availability as the priority, which data centers cannot afford any downtime. So it's a continuity of service. And as you know, as you're experiencing, you cannot predict when you need the scalability. Scalability is on demand. The scalability has to be part of the solution, which has to be incorporated. We cannot say we would be scaling after 2 years or 3 years. So the scalability is part of our design in terms of a product development or a complete solution that we're going to offer. And of course, the safety and security is the key concern, be it a product level safety in terms of human safety perspective or accessing the data at the rack level. You need a lot of security to be enabled, even from that perspective. Every component, every IoT thing that we are bringing in comply to a lot of safety and security standards in the space of data center. So with all this, we are moving towards offering an integrated solution with keeping the user as a center point of interest to make his life more easier and simplified. And then give the flexibility to choose from the wide options to pick what suits best with having the scalability or modularity as an option to grow when required. And this comes with a commitment to serve with a speed, and that's what makes us to build agile data centers and help us to work with our customers to build their agile data centers. So therefore, we are committed to build agile data centers, and data centers has to be built that can last for longer. And that's where the whole experience in last 2 years has been, where you have to be more agile for the unprepared situations that you get faced. And keeping in mind, we have segregated the product offering into 2 segments in the data center. One is white space, where you have PDUs, structured cabling, racks and containment, and floor PDUs as major offerings. Everything that goes within the 4 walls has been categorized into white space product lines. And similarly, the technical equipments like transformers, BBT, the busway, panels, and UPS has been categorized towards the gray space. So we have a complete portfolio to offer in these 2 categories to build an agile data center. Now, quickly looking at the individual products, we have 14 different products in both categories to offer. So pretty much on the energy distribution and end-to-end energy distribution. And on the white space, be it intelligent PDUs, KVM, structured cabling, we have multiple brands and multiple product range that meets your technical requirements based on size of your data center. So looking at the energy distribution, the best part what we have is that we have an integrated solution. The moment the power comes into your premises, we can connect it to a transformer, and without using much of a cable, we would be taking it to the end-to-end connectivity using the busbar trunking system. So we have various technologies and range in order to comply to the standards of the data center. And on the UPS, starting from 10 kVA, we have up to 800 kVA and scalable up to 3.1 megawatts on the smaller scale. And it can go up to 24 megawatts when you scale it up with the enterprise class versions. On the overhead cable trays, which is popularly known for managing the structured cabling and fiber cabling solutions within the data center, we have Cablophil as a brand, which brings in a lot of advantage in routing the cable without prefabricating at the factory. You can make all the changes at the site. And this is a very popular product in the data center segment from our side. And similarly, in the structured cabling, we have a wide range on both copper and fiber. It brings a lot of scalability, easy installation. You can do a mix and match within the same patch panel for copper and fiber. Within the copper, you can do mix and match for Cat 6 category, Cat 8 category, or a Cat 5 category. And you can also choose to have 50% copper and 50% fiber. As the requirements are changing, the migration to newer technologies like moving from copper to fiber is becoming very popular. And that's where you need a flexibility to design and adopt. Instead of changing the whole infrastructure, you should be able to change components and still manage the solution. That's where we are focusing on the cabling solutions. And on the racks, we have a complete range on containment and racks of various sizes. We have multiple brands within the racks. We have factory in India and we have factory out of India to bring in the best products that would meet your data center requirements. And in a data center, the measuring of power and monitoring of power has become quite common, or the need of the hour, I can say. As without understanding what you are consuming, it is not possible for you to optimize. So keeping in this in mind, we have introduced the intelligent PDUs to industry about 10 years back, and that's been at a very conceptual stage in the starting. But in recent times, this has really been an emerging technology which is getting adopted by most of the customers. And this also brings in a lot of advantage for you to remotely monitor and control the power at a data center level. We have huge range features and functionalities. So this is a small introduction to what Legrand offers in the space of data center. Now, anybody interested can write to us. We will share our contact at the end of this session. And we will be able to provide more detailed information on these product lines. That's it on Legrand for now, Sunil. Over to you, Sunil.
Yeah. Thank you, Anjani, for that detailed overview. So we'll probably take some of the concepts up later. But right now, I'd like to, have a panel, I'd like to have a chat between Anjani and Anil. So let's go for that. At the very beginning, I had mentioned that there was a furious adoption of the cloud after the onset of the pandemic. There was a rise in the, work from anywhere culture. And there has now all businesses feel there is a need to insulate business from future disruptions because natural disasters, floods, they keep coming, and the pandemic has set everyone on guard. So we have to be insulated from the future. So I would say now things have settled down in the data center landscape, and all players have started making concrete long-term strategies. So I'd like to hear from you both your various views on this. As I mentioned, there has been great acceleration. So there has been the adoption of cloud by enterprises and SMBs. Are we now in a stage of consolidation in the data center landscape? What are the major areas around which this consolidation is happening? So I think anyone can take this first.
Sure. Thanks, Sunil, for inviting me for this panel. I think I'll just go ahead and start. And great, introduction you gave. And Anjani, I think really great overview. You talked about a number of core issues as far as related to data center infrastructure is concerned, which becomes very critical when you're looking at consolidation, right? Because you talk about PDU, you talk about power, which is one of the major sources of cost for any data center. And you need definitely a strategy to be able to, reduce those costs. But, to come back to your question, and that's a very valid question, Sunil, that, yeah, we are actually at a stage of consolidation, and a major driver of this is outsourcing of IT functions to the cloud, which, you talked about, which organizations are really looking at to enable, greater efficiency and scalability. And as this happens, organizations are looking at consolidating some of their on-prem data centers. So where there are multiple data centers, they're looking at consolidating them into maybe one single large data center. Or if somebody has a single data center, they look at consolidating the hardware resources and support infrastructure, using technologies like virtualization or containers or SDN, hyperconverged systems, just to name a few. Both of them actually result in tremendous cost saving, and they offer greater efficiency, and in fact they lower the power consumption, and by this consolidation it also helps you enhance the security, which will come to later as well, because security is a very core issue for any data center strategy today. The other growing area, of movement in data center hardware is from on-prem to a co-located environment, with a data center service provider. And according to various research reports, India's co-location data center market, is expected to grow from the current 375 megawatts from last year to 1078 megawatts by 2025, which is a growth of 21% CAGR. That's phenomenal growth, which is obviously a result of all the trends that you talked about. Greater data usage, work from home, e-commerce. So many of these trends, OTT. So consumption of data is actually driving the increase in data center sizes and growth in that, and which is leading to the increase in the power. So that is from a power point of view. It also results, by doing this kind of consolidation, you can get, a lot of savings in terms of power and cooling cost, because in a co-located environment, you're actually sharing all these resources with other tenants. And, not only that, you get redundant internet and power connections, for higher uptime. And many data center service providers offer, mirror data centers that can give you a huge benefit, because you get DR as well, as something that is really badly needed in the in a situation like we've just been through, and hopefully we're out of it now. So yeah, consolidation is really happening, from multiple to single data center, within a single data center, movement to a co-location space, using all these new technologies. So absolutely, Sunil. Yeah, that's my answer, and over to you. And Anjani, you want to add something to that?
Yeah, thanks, Anil. That's a great in-depth overview which you have given on the consolidation. Yes, I agree with you. See, if you look at last 2 years, the priorities have changed. It was not the situation like it was in 2019 to wait, think, and react, right? The most of the approach is reactive. We need to keep it available, keep it accessible, and just provide. So nobody has the time to stop and think to see what is right, what is wrong. Just make it available, make it accessible, and make sure things are up and running. Right? Many of us in today in this forum are from IT, so we all have been experienced spending extra hours and to make everything is running appropriate. So a lot of things have been done, giving the priority to accessibility and availability, but not in the optimal way. Now that things are settling down, we see that year 22 is more of a consolidation. That's one reason why we are talking about calm after the storm, right? And the applications have been just provided, installed just on demand basis. Nothing has been said. So there will be a lot of consolidation happening towards the applications, moving them from on-premises to cloud, and consolidating and combining multiple applications to a single hardware. Definitely, the lot of hardware provisioning has been done as a in demand. We don't have a choice. We need to pick what is available. So this is the time, and this is all increased in a lot of cost of operation also, because we have to pick what is available. We don't have a choice to pick by looking at what is best cost optimal solution and all. So this is going to happen, and as you rightly said, there's a lot of traffic that has been generated, and the backbone systems are not really ready. A classic example, if you see, for the initial days when everybody has started using the video conferencing, okay, not to name and where we have seen video conferencing applications failing for various reasons. So you don't have the bandwidth for that. So now things are changing, so that there will be a lot of consolidation on the backbone strengthening as well. So that's my take on all this.
Yeah, so thanks. So basically, that growth I've talked was you have talked in detail of how, like, power consumption, the consolidation. So I think it's like we are in for a real huge consumption of power and expansion of data centers. So before I continue, I think it's time to involve the audience. We have a poll question. So Ashok, if you could just put this, I'd request everyone in the audience to participate in this poll question. So it'll be quite interesting. Yeah. So what, according to you, is the most important requirement for data centers today? Moving from room cooling to rack cooling, harnessing AI for increased efficiency, or strengthening backbone networking? So please cast your vote. Okay. So, oh, okay. So, I mean, it's like harnessing AI for increased efficiency. That, of course, all three seem to be important, but yeah, okay. So I think with that, I think we'll, get to specifics. So it's very interesting that AI came on top because that's exactly what I wanted to ask you, Anjani, about the importance of AI. So the audience is also aligned with it. So Anjani, of course, I mean, you cannot. We talked of this expansion and optimization. We cannot do it without artificial intelligence. So I'd like to know how we can use AI to create new designs in DC infrastructure to achieve efficiency, performance, and better customer experience. What other technologies can be used to achieve better agility in today's fast changing world? So I'm sure the audience will look forward to that answer.
Yeah, Sunil, so the first step in adopting artificial intelligence starts with adding intelligence wherever possible to monitor what is happening. Okay. If you take an example of the power in the data center alone, okay, just to give a classic example how the AI can be really utilized. Uh, you, if you start monitoring at the rack level or a device level, you will understand what is the pattern of consumption of each individual device. There is a known fact about what is the nameplate rating of a device and what is the actual consumption. Okay, so there is a huge gap. You will be surprised to know that even 750 watts of server, which is nameplated at 750 watts in real time, even with the highest load on the CPU utilization, would not cross 45% of the power consumption at any point of time. But this you cannot know unless something is monitoring. The first step starts at the monitoring level, right? So once you know what is happening, then there is a possibility for you to optimize. At the same time, you can set thresholds, right? Let's say example, 1 SMPS on a server is behaving radically. How do you know? It is power related. It is not practically possible for us to sit and monitor. But because you have this level of intelligence, this can proactively give you an indication what's going wrong and that one component. Imagine the whole data center with thousands of servers and one server, 1 SMPS is behaving abnormal. You will not be able to pinpoint unless you have some intelligence adopted to it. So that's how the artificial intelligence can really help you to avoid any downtime much before it can really occur. So that's one way of doing it. The power is a classic example for you. Hope that answers your question. We will also be talking a lot in my next presentation on various
Yeah,
other
sure.
technologies that are really bringing AI. So I
Yeah,
really don't want to spoil the show.
no problem, no problem. We'll look forward to that. So I again, like both of you gave a very detailed overview. So Anil, when you gave that overview, you talked of security. So I'd be interested in that security part, because as we know, the online shift was quite sudden, and a large number of people did not realize how to use the technology properly. That increased the instances of cyber attacks, fraud, and a violation of online security. So what can enterprises do to counter that?
Yeah, you're right, Sunil. I said I'll come to security later, and good. I'm glad you asked me about that. But security is a topic in itself. There are so many different aspects to it. But yeah, I'll do try to sum it up as much as I can. Because the pandemic has actually led to a hybrid work environment, or the work from anywhere environment that you were really talking about, where people can work from outside the office instead of inside. And basically what happened was the traditional security practices were always built to protect the enterprise boundaries. Now there are no boundaries, so every home now has become a mini office, which has actually increased the security footprint considerably. And now there's actually a need to secure such a huge distributed work environment. And now if you look at from a threats perspective also, it's not just the volume and type of threat that has increased, but there's also been a significant increase in the number of vendors also that offer security solutions, which is natural, because as the variation in security threats increases, there's likely to be different types of solutions that come in. So now the challenge is in actually managing this increased complexity of having so many multiple security tools. and there's a need to kind of reduce this complexity. Maybe consolidation of tools could be one answer, where you use fewer tools, fewer vendors that can perform multiple tasks. That could be one. The other is that employees are or the workforce is actually able to log in from various enterprise applications from multiple devices, right? Today, it's not just that you log in from a laptop, but you can log in from a laptop, smartphone, or a tablet. Multiple devices are logging in. So what happens is that there are multiple identities also to manage now. The number of identities that you have to manage that are coming into the network and accessing various applications is also increased. So this also kind of increases the chances of breaches. And in this case, one core thing that becomes important in security is identity protection. That becomes very, very important. And moving forward, you're going to have machines also kind of connecting to applications directly as well, right? With IoT and sensors and all those things coming in. It's not just humans, but machines also will automatically be connecting. So the number of identities you have to protect is going to increase multifold. And incidentally, in the pandemic, we saw a huge increase in the usage of video conferencing, right? We're doing one virtual event now, which is over a video conference, right? So there was a sharp increase in cyber attacks also on video conferencing services, and where personal data and there are records, there are reports that over 500,000 people, actually the data for personal data for 500,000 people was stolen, and that was actually sold on the dark web. So basically now, if I look at security, there's a need now to do continuous monitoring. There's a need to do continuous testing, validation of whatever security posture that the organization has. There's now a need to protect the home Wi-Fi networks. There's a need to create awareness of these new types of attacks that are really coming in. Because employees are working from home. Many people join office also and never come to office, but they start working from home. So they need to be trained, they need to be made aware of what's really happening as far as new types of security is concerned. And given the rise in types of security threats, and you and Anjani already talked about the technology, AI-based security has become essential today to detect and kind of thwart these threats, because it also helps even zero-day attacks and all. It's not possible just to do human intervention and to kind of keep protecting against all these threats. You need AI to be able to offer protection from security. Over to you, Sunil. Thanks.
Yeah. So anyway, thanks for that overview. I know, enterprises initially had a fort to protect in their office, but now the threats are everywhere. So let's see how that pans out. So we have plenty more questions, but we'll resume them shortly. Anjani, could you please give your next PPT? So we'll take this discussion up after that.
Hope you can see my screen.
We can see it, Anjani.
Thanks. So today's title and topic of the day is Calm After the Storm. The reason why we are calling Calm After the Storm is we had a tough 2 years, which every one of us are impacted personally and professionally, because whatever happened in last 2 years because of the pandemic situation, right? And in today's form, most of us are from the ITs, data center background, or managing applications or network or the data center itself. We are all the reason why everybody is able to survive and sail through these difficult things. Okay, we ITs team, the IT managers, the data center managers are the team which is it's nobody thanked us so far, but I would like to take the opportunity today to thank each one of you for being so patient and sacrificing a lot and putting a lot of efforts in keeping the data centers up and running. It's not possible. I know some of the engineers and IT managers who stayed during the lockdown within the data centers and never moved out for a week time. Okay, sleeping there, eating there, and living with whatever they had. So those are the sacrifices which made everybody to access the applications, do the banking, okay, buy the groceries, order food, do a video consultation with the doctors. Many things happen. Thank you all. Thanks a lot. And that's now after this, everything has been settling, but we still have a lot to do. after this difficult situation to bring everything streamlined and to be prepared for the next difficult situation. Hope it never arises, but it's not in our control as part of the natural disasters. So that's where we would be moving on, and we will see how things are changing. So if you look at last 2 years, everything has been changed. Okay, business at the speed of consumers, and the technology at the speed of business, and consumer at the speed of technology. So the overall consumer behavior is changing, and this is what is actually influencing how the business has to serve the consumers. And in order to make the business available, up and running, the technology has to support. And it's been a huge responsibility, and most of us, to make this happen in short durations and short time. So business is trying to adapt to this new change, but we believe this cycle is going to stay in the system for a very long time, as we see the lot of new internet users are coming, new applications are coming in. Okay, this will be happening for quite some time. So what we need to do is look at the customers. We all have one way the other accessing to the customers, internal customers or an external customers, and this is changing. And this is changing because of the actual user or an end consumer behavior. So while we are focusing on technology, what to adopt, what not to adapt, but it's also important for us to look at the consumer behavior and what is the expectation and change. Today, consumers or users are very impatient. They cannot wait for a second or for a minute to get what they want, and they'll switch an application, they'll switch a bank just for the service, right? So this is what is changing, and this is influencing the whole world of technology. Earlier, in the past days, the technology was to enable the business internally. It is hidden, it is only a part of it, it is not. But today, the business is technology. The technology has changed its form, and businesses cannot survive without technology, and that means data center. And also, the focus used to be only on the BFSI and telecom segments, but now it is not. Now it has been changing to health. We have seen the change in healthcare components, the healthcare tools, and the healthcare industry in terms of managing, in terms of updating the systems without being on the site. Even we have gone ahead and seen enabling the technology to monitor the patients remotely from a different geographical location, to address the gap between the expertise and the skilled people to be available. So these are the trends which you will see and which is influencing the whole. So there are a lot of gadgets that's coming in order to monitor your health, and that's need to be connected over the internet to pass on this information to your doctors, hospitals for a regular monitoring, right? We've already seen the smart watches and health Fitbit kind of gadgets coming in and interacting with your health applications. So similarly, the education has changed a lot, with a lot of online classes coming in to bridge the gap, the unavailability of a physical access and offline classes. So we are seeing a lot of technology getting adopted, and then online education through applications or through video classes has increased, and this is the new area of business which is changing. And obviously the fintech, the new wallet business which is happening. Every organization, one way or the other way, if they are into e-commerce for some reason, that's going to have some kind of an financial wallet. So this is also changing because the health industry is spread, education is spread, and of course your consumers and users are spread around the various regions. Instead of data centers being in the urban and metropolitan cities, now it is slowly moving. The focus is moving towards the semi-urban and rural. That makes our focus, making our business, and therefore our technology, and therefore our data centers as well. So we have to work towards making it agile by supporting our business. And to support our business, we need to have the agile technology, and with agile technology, we can build agile data centers. That's going to be a core focus. And recently, Gartner has released their key trends that's going to be for 22. Okay, these are the major trends. We agree with it, and we are in line with that. But mostly what we believe is these trends is going to be applicable for the hyperscale data centers, like the Googles of the world, Amazons of the world, Facebooks of the world. So this is where they would be primarily focusing. But at the same time, this influences a lot of ground technology, which would change. And that's where it will have a direct or an indirect influence on the smaller data centers or the regional data centers which we are going to build. If you see the last 10 years, the focus has been completely on the social media and e-commerce, the online retail segment. And you talk about the WhatsApps, Facebook, Twitters, Instagrams. That is where most of the focus has been, and new applications, newer. But today, that's reached its peak where you have online applications or retail applications or food applications or grocery applications in every nook and corner of the country, right? Even in a small village, people can order online, be it groceries or be it medicines. So we have reached to that extent, and these applications have been spread. So what's going to happen in next few years? We are not as specifically calling a next decade because the speed has increased. It may not take a decade to change, but it is already changing. So living with gadgets, you will be looking at using a lot of IoT gadgets in and around your personal life. Today, if you look at your house, you have Alexa or a Google, and you are using a smartwatch and a smart mobile already a lot. And everything is coming with IoT enabled, your home automation, your geysers, your air conditioning. So the IoT gadgets will be part of your life and you are going to live it. As Sunil also highlighted in the previous discussion about working with machines and a lot of machines talking to applications directly, this is another area which is going to be a key trend in terms of working with machines. If you have to access soil in the deep mine, we are no more sending people. We are sending machines to collect the soil and bring it back and test it in the closest data centers or a lab machine, right? And similarly, to get the deepest sea components for the oil or etc. Again, we are sending machines over there. You're seeing we are using drones in the part of surveillance. The entire police or the armed forces are already using drones for various reasons to do it. So they are not working on the machines, but they are working with the machines. So machines are going to be your colleagues, while we accept or not, but that's going to be the world in tomorrow. So you will always be having a friendly machine that is helping you to share the load on your work, and you will be working hand in hand with these machines in coming days. So because the consumers are spread and the technology is spreading, as we have seen, there will be a lot of demand for the hybrid cloud. We are already in the process. It's not a new thing, but this is happening. But only thing what you have seen in the metropolitan cities like Bangalore, Hyderabad, etc., you would be seeing in the smaller cities happening this, and you would also see a huge demand on the micro DCs and containerized DCs as the data center would also has to be mobile. It need to be in a position to move from one place to other place as the demand changes, and it is the adoption process from moving from an edge data center to a regional data center to a centralized data centers. So all the new explored areas will be adopting these edge data centers and containerized data centers in near future. So having said that, we have to be prepared for tomorrow, and it needs a lot of attention and it needs a lot of commitment in order to do this. And if you look at the key areas that we have to focus is adopting an environmental friendly and sustainable technology, be it a green power or be it a sustainable cooling. This is required when we are moving to the new regions, and especially in the rurals and villages, when we are going and setting up a edge data center or small data centers. Definitely we don't want to leave a negative footprint, spoiling the native ecosystem what they have, and especially we do not want to use the resources or take the major share of the resources just to run a small data center at the cost of the natural habitat which is already there, right? So this has been going to be a challenge, and this is going to be where the focus is going to be on what technology you're using, and mostly the green power and sustainable cooling is one thing that's going to take a peak. And ANDCs, data centers, we have discussed this. Monitoring at a granular level is a start. as we discuss the power monitoring, which is the start, which is mostly happening today at a data center level. Many of you have adopted to measure at the rack level, but there are still a lot of room to monitor at the device level. And once you start monitoring, as I've highlighted in the previous discussion as well, you'll be able to understand a lot about what's happening with your device and how much it is consuming, how much power you have, and this will help you in optimization. So how much you can really put in and how much you have. Instead of buying new space, more power, more racks, you will be able to optimize what is available and how much effectively you can utilize the available resources. Then the increase in load also forcing the increase in kilowatt per rack. Uh, we have seen an average of 4-5 kilowatts, but we are seeing an average of 15-20 kilowatts now. So, but this will also have an impact on the cooling technology. There is a lot of change in the cooling technology. It is changing its phase and position where it used to be. From a peripheral cooling, it is moving more towards the rack and next to the rack, be it indoor cooling or rear door heat exchangers, etc. So this is where is going to be the change, and that's where going to be the focus mostly. And the security. As we are talking, we are accessing the data of customers knowingly, unknowingly, and we are responsible to protect it in many ways. So we'll be talking, or we also have to focus the security at a rack level and how we are protecting it from allowing any other breaches, right? So that is one area which we focus. Of course, the server and network level security has been a key focus for years, and that's still the top priority for many of the cyber security segments. But the physical security is also one thing at the rack level, which is taking priority or a key focus on many segments. So then, and then the network scalability. When your entire traffic is growing, you need to serve in the speed. We cannot afford not being available and delaying. That's not going to work. So we have to scale it as we go, and it is going to be a never-ending story as the technology grows, as the consumers grows. We see this going. So today we only have few internet connections and few smartphones with 140 crore of people in India, but we are seeing a lot adopting to this new technology and smartphones, etc. So the load is going to increase, and that needs a huge infrastructure, and network is a real thing that is going to be the key of focus in coming days. And of course, without the skilled employees, we will not be able to survive and sail through. Regular training and updation is important, and that's going to be the focus again. And we need to bring the employees up to the speed of technology by regular trainings and giving whatever the tools required, enable them to keep up to the speed. So if you look at the growth range on the kilowatt rack, what is going in 2011, an average rack in a data center is about 2.4 kVA, and 2020 it is about 8.4 kVA. It took 10 years to really go to that average rack density. But if you look at the trend which is happening, if you look at an average rack density between 1 to 4 kilowatts is nearly about 25% of the data centers, and 5 to 9 kilowatts is about 46%, and 10 to 19 kilowatts is about 13%, and near about 29 kilowatt is 7%. More than 30 kilowatt is only 9%. If you look at overall, we have 91% of the data centers. That is where the key growth is happening, and that's where the focus is. All above 30 kVAs are hyperscale, high-end data centers where they're playing with huge data. But the regular data centers would be moving in it. But if you also look at the trend in last years, the way it's growing in the rack density per se, so there is not much change in last 2 years, but it has changed significantly from 2018 to 21. The reason is also because in 2020-21, there's not much of a green data centers, the new data center, but it's more of an occupation in the existing colo spaces, etc. So similarly, 10 to 20 kilowatts has also seen a significant growth. This is the result of a sudden increase on demand for online application and a lot of growth and that thing. And 29 kilowatts is pretty much stable in last 2 years. Again, this is the reason for not having the green data centers. But if you look at an average, the 1 to 10 kilowatt racks are going to be more because the number of data centers are also going to increase. That's why you see that the 1 to 10 kilowatt per rack demand is still intact, and this is where the cooling would be used at a peripheral cooling or the rack level cooling for the edge or a micro data centers. But if you look at the 10 to 29 kilowatts, this is the regional or a central data centers which will be adopting, and we are seeing a huge adoption on 22 kilowatt as an average rack density in the recent times, in my experience. So this is where again a challenge or the change in cooling technology adoption coming in. So the indoor cooling or the rear door heat exchangers are again being adopted or in the key discussions nowadays for most of the data centers. So in order to have the sustainable and more efficient cooling to bring in. So if you look at the 1 to 10 kilowatt rack data centers, they operate at 1.5 PE, but the data centers which has near about 29 kilowatts per rack really bring down to 1.3 PE. There is a room for further improvement, but this will take time unless we have the technology optimization all around all the components and really increase the computing per rack. It's not possible to achieve the PU. So if we really want to focus on PU and improvise, then it is important that you increase the utilization at the rack level, the computing. So that's where we will be focusing, and we need to focus as well. So the security at data center, we're mostly talking about the physical or a rack level security in this point. The data centers, we have seen you have physical security, you have access control and IP cameras. And we have also seen in some of the data center where you will have the caging and CCTV and access control, of course. But what it is happening now is because you are again managing a lot of data that belongs to customers and consumers. And in every data center, there are different owners, right? You have financial related information, you have audit related information, customer billing and invoice related information, or an intellectual property related information. And the owners of these servers, these racks differ. So you have different owners, different managers that will manage the security aspect of it, network aspect of it, applications, hardware, etc. And then there are different vendors coming inside your data center to install, troubleshoot, upgrade. A lot of activity is going to happen. So now, unlike previous days, you cannot give a generic access to somebody inside the data center and give a common access to all the racks. You have to be very specific on who is accessing what and which rack and what is the accessibility. So therefore, the focus at the rack level security is pretty much on the line, and we are seeing a lot of traction over there. So when you look at, there is a lot of IoT thing that's really helping to implement, be it IP cameras or proximity sensors, which helps you to sense the presence of a person in front or in and around the rack so that you can see what can happen. And of course, the intelligent locks and smart locks are coming. We have seen in the last 2 years, many of the financial segment customers adopted to this, but this is also getting spread to the other segments because of various reasons. So you can limit the access, who will access which rack and who will not. And inside the asset management, you will know an unauthorized and an authorized movement within the rack or outside the rack, and what to access. It also helps in bringing the chance of human error to a very low. And the simple web cameras at the rack will also give you a lot of information on the activity actually happening. You don't need to be there, but you can see what is happening at the rack, and that's happening. And this is all for accessing physically the rack. But to avoid the physical access, unless you need to change a hardware component or implement some connectivity, you don't need to be inside the data center, right? So you are also using, I mean, they are also using a lot of out-of-band access tools like your service process managers or IP cables or serial controls, which reduces the need to travel. And this is also very important because your data centers are going to spread. You need to manage a lot of edge data centers. And unless you have the right tool to really manage, you don't need to be there. And when they are located remotely, then you have to send your vendors to manage it. And you need a lot of control tracking in order to see who is there and what is happening while you are physically not available. So these are the areas which is happening. So to give a classic example or look and feel, if you deploy a proximity sensor, a simple USB web camera, a smart lock, and an asset management in a rack, you can take different examples how the AI can really work in here. So the proximity sensor can sense the availability of the person in front of the rack, and the web camera can click a photograph and send it to the SOC or a NOC to see if that person is authorized to access this rack or not. Much before the person trying to access or opening the rack door, the SOC or NOC can really open the rack door one level before, and the next level can be his smart card or pin-based or key-based access. So this adds security. This gives you an information who is available, authorized access, etc., and ensure that only the person who is authorized is accessing it. And once he opens the rack door, the asset management tags will be able to provide you an LED indication on which space, if he is coming there to install a new device, in which space the new device can be implemented. And if he has to troubleshoot a device, if you look at the rack, you see all are Dell or HP servers of the same models. It is very difficult to understand which one to troubleshoot. He cannot just simply plug out a power cable or an Ethernet cable without knowing or identifying which one it is, right? So an LED indication blinking in red multiple times shows that you are supposed to access this device. And before even removing the power or network cable, you can remove the tag of the asset, and that will show you an alert that you are dealing with the right device or wrong device. So this significantly reduces a lot of downtime and keeps track of any changes. If you want to know how many times the device has been changed, how many times the device has been accessed physically at the rack, all that information can be available in no time. Just you need to check your interface and you have all the records, or a weekly or periodical reports also can be generated. So this brings a lot of intelligence at the rack to keep you in track with all the possible information and give the security to the max. And moving to the remote management, so there are a lot of tools which comes with various products. Dell uses a different kind of an ILOs or DRACs, and HP uses ILOs, and similarly RDP, BNC. There are a lot of tools which comes along with your different hardware. It is every data center is a heterogeneous. Today, nobody says we are one product or one brand shop that we will be only with it. It's not an option that we have. So you have to be with the heterogeneous environment, and you need a common tool which can give you an access to every device without depending on its core platform. So there are product lines like the secure gateways which can give you access to any of the machines, be it the server or a serial device. And there are normal technologies like KVM or IP or serial or IP, which can dedicatedly connect to your hardware and give you a remote access, be it a remote OS installation, be it a remote application installation, patch update, changes on the BIOS level, or even re-emerging an OS on the serial devices. This is all possible by adopting these kind of tools and accessing them remotely. And with an adoption of the intelligent PDUs, you can even remotely power on, power off, reboot the machines as a process of installation and integration. So these tools will help you to be available virtually and manage your entire infrastructure. Of course, as and when you need to change the hardware or make a different connections, you need to send somebody, and the security aspects will cover you from who is accessing and what they're accessing. So another important area we are talking about is the network scalability. As you see, the traffic is growing and people or consumers are growing. You are moving from 1G, 10G to 25G at the server side. I don't see anybody is still stuck at a server at 1G. Most of the data centers are talking today minimum as 10G. And the increase in the throughput of the servers will automatically increase the demand of on the switch side, where we're talking about 100 gig switches and 400 gig switches, and we're also talking about 800 gig switches nowadays. So this also, when the more the throughput beyond a 40G, you can't survive on the copper anymore. So we are seeing a lot of shift by will or by wish or by force from a copper to fiber. Now, fiber has its own advantages to pull out, break out solutions, etc., in order to move the 40 Gs to multiples of 10s or 100 Gs to multiples of 25 in order to serve different servers, right? The connectivity. But it has its own complexities. And fiber, the moment we talk about fiber, people have this fear it is delicate, you need skill sets to terminate, a lot of challenges and a lot of complexities to choose which polarity, etc. policy. So the trends are also moving, and the technology is supporting today to simplify this piece of connectivity challenges, and that's going to be the trend in coming days. So if you see the past way of the fiber connectivity, the LIU splicing, right? You need an expertise, and it has a long time of installation, and it is very delicate. You don't want anybody to touch. I have personally seen many areas. If it is fiber connectivity, be it a mess, nobody is going to touch, because you don't want to be the one who cause downtime for the data center by just removing the one fiber cable, right? But in recent times, that's changed. That's changed because of the CAT6, the pre-terminated solutions, the MPO, MTP solutions, and you have pretty much there. But it has, again, the polarity matching to be done. There are very few products which will come with a universal polarity solutions, and it has its own challenge in terms of the channel loss, etc. Right? Now, what's going to be the future? The future is the direct connect, which will even eliminate the use of or the need of cassettes and make it simple. Works under the very lowest channel loss, and it is simple. So the faster migrations and faster scalabilities, adoptions will happen, so that you really don't need to depend on skilled people for the longest installation durations. You don't need to consider it as delicate anymore, because it will have its own agile and reliability within the solution. So here I have a small video on the future technology, which is on the fiber connectivity. Ashok, can you help with the video, please?
You're standing on the doorstep of the future. A future where fiber connectivity is simplified. Now's the time to go beyond with Legrand. Say goodbye to antiquated cassettes and hello to the future of simplified network design. Introducing Infinium Acclaim. Unlock the future of fiber optic connectivity, where less is more. Less money, less complexity, less time to deploy, all while improving optical headroom, delivering more migration capability than legacy fiber infrastructure in a solution that is more sustainable. All of this means is that managing your fiber optic infrastructure just got easier. Focus more on capabilities and services for your clients, without worrying about connectivity. Infinium Acclaim cuts install and deployment time in half, using less components, less materials, and less impact to the environment. The direct mating breakout removes the headache of pins or polarity. Acclaim utilizes high-performance direct connections, enabling a multi-generational life cycle. The cassette is a thing of the past. Cut cost, cut complexity, cut cassettes. Go beyond with Legrand and experience the future of fiber optic infrastructure with Infinium Acclaim.
Thanks, Ashok. So that's what we have coming up in the future for the fiber solutions. And we at Legrand Group, as I told you, we have multiple brands, and we are committed to bring the advanced technologies and solutions in the data center space. And in India, we are 5,700 people working on various segments, and we have nearly 10 manufacturing facilities, 3 R&D centers, and service centers across the country to provide the service on the fastest possible timelines. And we have popular brands that are available within the country, helping us to generate nearly 300 billion euros of revenue. And if you look at the subject matter expertise of the sales team on the field, we really have 780 people to serve any requirement in any corner of the country. And we have 54 sales officers, and we have 7 innovals to really give the experience to customers to touch and feel the product lines that we are working on. So we all welcome any of the customers or partners interested to visit our innovals to really experience the product line. And we have 13 training centers, which is ongoing training sessions for all our partners, service engineers, and the sales team to keep them updated with the latest technology and the product offerings we have. And multiple product categories to give you a wide variety and range to choose on what best fits for your requirement, and nearly more than 50 product families. So in the space of data center, we have more than 14 product lines that covers everything that needs to be available for the data center. And that's all we have today to share with you. Thank you. And Sunil, over to you.
Yeah. So thank you, Anjani, for that presentation. I like the fact that data center, those who manage the data center are also COVID warriors. We usually don't think of them. And also, I liked your concept of the agile data center. We have been hearing agile software, but now we have the agile data center, which is going to be very important. And to be frank with you, it's been a very great and engrossing session. I had many more questions, but unfortunately, we are out of time. So probably if you could sum it up in the end. First, if we have missed out anything, maybe you could tell us. And in conclusion, what is the one thing that you would recommend to enterprises to take note of in their DC strategy? So I think while you think on that, we'll have our final poll. We'll have the final poll, and maybe you can, at that time, you can think of what is, that one thing which all enterprises should think about their DC strategy. So Ashok, can you put the poll? Yeah. So which of the following, according to you, will be the most important focus areas for data centers in the coming months? So just there are five choices. Please click the ones that. Yeah, so I think AI rules at least for the day in both polls. And I'm happy that environmentally friendly and sustainable technologies also has 19%. Otherwise, anyway, so maybe both of you can comment on that poll also and then give your final thoughts for the webinar.
So I go with the audience because artificial intelligence will bring in a lot of information together and to make it available to take the necessary decisions, even to improvise on the environment. So that's on the whole part. The one thing that I would like the audience to consider in the DC strategy is to add intelligence wherever possible to start monitoring. Without the data, what is happening right and what is happening wrong, you really cannot optimize or improvise or scale your data center. So that is one thing which I really want everybody to incorporate in that focus in the DC strategy, right? We have to have the intelligence at every possible area in every component that is possible. Once you have the information, you really can do a lot of things in your data center. Yeah. Over to you, Anil.
Yeah, thanks, Anjani. I think you covered a lot of very interesting points around some of the new technologies and all which become important for data centers, especially all the remote management and connectivity. and I see AI coming in in a big way. But I think if I were to look at the one thing that would be I'd like to recommend, it's like just to be aware that there are a lot of seismic shifts happening in the world of technology, and that's what really enterprises need to really gear up their entire data center infrastructure for. It's not exactly it's a huge change as compared to what it used to be earlier. So everything has to be done according to these seismic shifts. The shift to co-location, the shift to technologies that are consolidating technologies, which are actually bringing in more power in each rack. Not only from a power perspective, that power consumption increases, but the compute also increases per rack. So everything has to be thought of according to that. So whether it's your security, or the edge computing, for example, the seismic shift that is there, and 5G is going to play a key role in ramping up the edge computing space much more. Energy becomes very critical, and I am glad that there was a poll answer related to energy. That becomes very important, because as power consumption in data centers grows, there's a need to be able to have sustainable energy, and be able to keep the data center cool, and make sure that you have you're able to control the power that is being consumed by the data center. So enterprises ultimately need to find a sustainable way to kind of cut on power and energy utilization, and I think Anjani referred to that in detail in his PPT. And yeah, that's it. I think leverage new technologies that are enabling this consolidation of various resources. That's the only way to really get greater agility, be able to be more scalable, like the cloud, have the flexibility in the resources. Because ultimately, if you look at the future, everyone does want a cloud-like experience from any kind of workload that they're running. So yeah, that's my message. Kind of keep track of these seismic shifts and plan the entire infrastructure according to that.
Okay, yeah. So thank you. I think it was a pretty comprehensive webinar, and we covered almost everything. So thank you, Anjani, for your time.
Thank you, Sunil. Thank you, Anil.
Thank you, Anil, for your time.
Thanks, Sunil. Thanks, Anjani. I think it was a great discussion.
Yeah. So on behalf of Dataquest and Legrand, I would like to thank everyone. And please, on your way out, don't forget to fill the feedback form, so that will be valuable for us. So thank you, everyone, and everyone have a great day. Bye.
Bye-bye.